So I've got to solder on capacitors to this RGB2HDMI that we put the CPLD on last time. And C1 through C3 I've purchased a little strip of capacitors, little ceramic capacitors, 0603s, and that's some sort of imperial size, I think. But I thought I'd try and demonstrate the size of them, and I thought, how will I do that? So this is a battery. This is a what is it, a AA? LR6, yeah, AA. This is a AA battery, and can you see the capacitor on the end of that? I don't know, focus isn't. It's tiny. Anyway, I've got to solder 3 of those onto this board. So let's have a little look under the scope. Might be the first time. This is the yeah, the focus hunting's not great, is it? Sorry about that. But C1 through C3. Anyway, we're gonna solder them on, and they are going to go on. There are probably some extremely good arguments that I should use a finer soldering iron tip, but well, SC1. But I'm going to do it with the one that I normally use because I'm used to it, and the finer the tip, I find the less likely I am to be able to get some heat onto it, and ultimately, well, it's going to be hilarious. I have done work this small before, but only once. It was a GBAP, GBAP, whatever it's called, scaler, video scaler, and there was some there it is. There was some guide. It was a guide I got from the gentleman at Micro-B on how to add some delay to one of the address lines, I think, to the DRAM on the board that dealt with like a snow in the video, and that was hacking one of these sized capacitors across some scratched back tracks. So this should be easy as a relative matter. We will tin only one pad, and only just. So that's done. That's beautiful. Geez, anyway, I swear I knew what I was doing. Got to not sneeze or we'll lose all the capacitors. A little bit of flux, and we might grab some tweezers from the drawer to position that fellow. If I can find my tweezers anyway. Sorry about this. I will be back. Let's give these ones a shot. Last time I used ones with a bend in the front to place components for the 50 Hz tick generators, but these ones are just straight. Honestly, I'm not sure they could be all that much worse. I don't really like doing work with tweezers. Right, I did that by eye rather than under the scope. Well, that pad might be able to take a slightly larger component. Though, you do need a spot there for the soldering. I'm sure that also people will tell me that I need to hold this down, because when the solder melts it'll kind of stick to it, and when I pull the iron out it'll piss off and follow the iron. But we're gonna just come down. The soldering iron comes into focus just before it touches, which is a handy data point. And that's soldered. That's done. That's I'm busy being pleased with myself right now. That's beautiful. I'm not going to fiddle with that any longer. Oh geez, that one that I redid, that came up good. What if I could get the other side looking that good? Wouldn't that be a treat? Or maybe it does look that good when the flux is removed. Yeah, it probably will. There's a hole in that pad for some reason as well, which, well, be a via, which was no doubt wicking away some of the solder. So that's this time we're going to do it on the one with the via first. There's our tinned point. There's our flux. A little bit too much, but that's okay. Whoops. We'll drop this fellow on. Again, the green mat is an ESD mat connected to mains earth, and I'm touching it. So, and with the humidity around here lately, what I found with this stuff is the second pad, if it's at all awkward, well, make a little more space. Every millimetre counts. And I'm going to rotate this because I am right-handed, and we'll bring C2 into frame eventually. There it is, sitting proud there on the little bit of solder. We'll clean the iron tip, and then we'll give ourselves a little bit of lead in with the iron tip so we can see it coming in into focus. And there's the kind of problem that can be fixed by holding it in place with tweezers. I was just lucky last time. Okay, well in future we'll hold it in place with tweezers. Way too much heat in this poor little thing. Oh no, get off the iron. Anyway, so we'll try that all over again. I mean, the thing is that it's important both to hold it in place but also to hold it down, and achieving both those things at the same time is non-trivial. But that's got it tacked into place. So what we're going to do is rotate it. Yeah, it's not right on like that. Geez, that first one went on good. Should have stopped the video there, eh? And we're just going to then do this, and what can happen if there's too much heat is we can melt the other side as well. But that is undoubtedly a good electrical connection. You stop dabbing at it, leave good enough alone. C1, go that way. There we go, there's C2. And we'll finish this side off with what was ultimately a little too much solder. I think there was an earlier revision of this board from memory that didn't have these capacitors on them at all. These are almost certainly what we might call a bypass capacitor, which is an unhelpful term for, I suppose, like it explains what it is but only in very loose terms. these fellows, being ceramic capacitors, can charge or discharge either way around. They're not polarized, right? So there's enough flux on that now so that it's sticky. I've been here before too. Put some flux on the job. So they can be charged either by positive or negative. So if you connect AC to them, they will fill up, and then as the AC drops back towards zero, they'll discharge, and then they'll fill up the other way around. Clever little fellas that they are. Jeez, I'm not using the microscope. Sometimes you get into that trap and you're like, oh, you know, I can sort of see what I'm doing. Geez, I wish I could see better. And you realise that you've not been using the scope. Oh yeah, that's easier, hey. Partly it's because for the purposes of videoing, I've got the scope set much less on a tilt than I normally do, so that you don't see the reflection of the lights, and so you get a better image in the camera that's more of it's in focus. Yeah, I haven't soldered a capacitor on where a resistor goes. So bypass capacitors, yeah, and noise is invariably AC. Invariably, I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule. Oh yeah, well, it's not coming off. The bypass capacitor can, if there's noise in the power supply, the DC power supply, if there's like a little bit of plusy minusy running along the top of the DC from the power supply, from other things connected to the power supply which are loading it and unloading it at some frequency or another. These capacitors, when placed across the power pins of the device, when the power runs a little high, they can charge up and stop it getting too high too fast, and when the power drops, they can release that same electrical potential, same voltage, same power, and stop the dips from getting too low. And in combination, they stabilize the power supply to the chip by absorbing the peaks of the noise and filling in the troughs of the noise. And that's what they do. And I assume they were added, well, the original design didn't have them. It may have been they were added in either to address a problem or in an attempt to address a problem. But my experience with another version of this is that it has no problems, and that one does have capacitors. So we don't know for sure. We weren't the engineers, but that's what they're for. Yeah, that is fine. Just looks a bit funny in the scope. Just microscope, not the oscilloscope. There's a really good video by Dave Jones on the EEV blog. EEV blog. Well, actually there are hundreds of good videos by Dave Jones on the EEV blog, but there's one he does about bypass capacitors and changing the makeup of capacitors and so on, and looking at the results on an oscilloscope that's properly set up to see that noise. And the smaller the capacitor, broadly speaking, the better equipped it will be to both deal with high frequency noise, because there's less inductance and so on, and also the closer they can be placed to the IC. If this board was through plated, I mean, what you'll often see with a CPU in a computer is that on the back of the board underneath the chip you find all of the power bypassing. But, you know, like I say, I only think they're for power bypassing. I haven't checked the pinouts of the chips, but it's highly likely, especially with them all being 0.1 of a microfarad. That's pretty standard way of going about it, often in comparison with an electrolytic capacitor. And for the purposes of this board, it will just rely on the ones on the motherboard. So there are 3 capacitors soldered in, and because I'm building 4 of these, there's a dozen of them. The other components that I have to add that aren't sockets and pins are let me see. Yeah, that's right. Resistor 1 and resistor 2. So a 1K resistor and a 4.7K resistor. So I need 4 of each. And I have a folder from eBay. It's like a sample book. And I will take the 2 resistor values from there and still have plenty to be going on with. And if I run out, I can order them then. Or if I'm running out, I can order them then. But rather than stuffing around element 14, trying to find suitable components and ordering them on a strip when they're sitting in the cupboard, I will just go with that. And the book's got all the values in it, pretty much. And if I get to the 1K strip and I've used quite a few of them already, the next time I do an order, I'll put, you know, 2 strips in the book, because clearly they're a size I use, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if 1K is the size I use. So this is running out of charge. Look at that. Just charges over micro USB. I'm going to run a power lead to it eventually, or actually the other plan I had was I have this 21700 cell here, which charges over USB-C, and I thought I could do a maybe if I can get a USB buck boost converter or something, I can, or maybe I could just buy a proper 18650 for this that has some real life in it. Don't know, but I can plug it in the charge now without any kind of disappointment, because we got the job done with the charge that we had. I'll charge that now, and the next time I plug it in, it'll be good to go. So I won't do the 2 resistors on camera. The sockets are pretty straightforward. If you want to see someone soldering way too many sockets, there's my Amiga 2000 motherboard build from scratch videos. Don't know when you'll see it next, but proof that you can solder in 0603 resistors with a fairly fat soldering iron, and a little bit of care. I really don't rate myself as a particularly skilled solderer, and would say that it is something that is susceptible, like so many things are, to a low skill attack armed with some confidence. And they're the 2 things, well, that's the one thing that 2 things that I have: good basic soldering skills and some confidence that I reckon I can do it.